باسل تفضل.
Okay. Testing. Okay. I tend sometimes to shout when I'm excited, so just making sure that my voice is fine. Can we bring up the slides, please? Until they come up. I'm going to talk today about AI and tech in healthcare. It's a bit of a different topic, so it will be a bit educational about healthcare problems and where AI, as well as data science and other technologies can help in this field. But the big question is it an inevitable necessity to use AI in healthcare, or is it just an overpromising fantasy? Just because it's the time of AI, so AI is everywhere. Any company that wants to get more funding, they just say we are applying AI to whatever, and therefore they feel that they are following the trend. Very briefly about myself, here I'm representing Biol.ai, which is in Boston, but a lot of the team is based in Jordan and nearby countries. I'm their scientific advisor, but my full-time everyday job, I'm the director of computational biology at Nucleum Therapeutics in Oxford, as well as some other roles here and there, advisory and consultancy. So please feel free to come to me and chat with me afterwards about any of that. So let's start with some problems that I think many of us face in healthcare. I think I can see the slides by looking here. So many of us face this. The doctor seems to have no clue about my case. I go to the doctor and they wonder, maybe you have this, maybe you have that. And then you start asking yourself which university gave that person their degree in medicine. But in many cases, humans do not know the answer. It's not the doctor. The fault is not the doctor himself or herself. It's just that knowledge we do not possess as humans yet. Also, sometimes you might ask, how come humans claim to have landed on the moon, but they do not have a cure or a treatment or a medicine for my disease? Same answer. We still have very big gaps in knowledge in medicine. We face this a lot in many different diseases. Doctors start trying different medicines, go try this for the next 6 months, 9 months. We know that it works with some people. Many people do not respond to that drug. It just does not work with them. We can only tell after you have tried it for 12 months and then come back to us. If it did not work, we'll try something else, and so on and so forth. Is there a way to point at the correct medicine on day one? Is there something that we can do on day one to tell which treatment is going to be possibly the best one for you? Sometimes actually people feel that they are lab mice. It's like I'm not a lab mouse to test things on me. But actually the doctor is not just testing because they want to test. They do not know the answer. And also many people, they think that they wish they knew about the diseases that were about to come to them early on, because they would have taken some steps towards prevention or interception of that disease. And that means that we need to see signs of a disease coming before the disease is there. All of these are more medical questions, but also there are many other operational or logistical problems, such as we wait for a long time at the emergency unit at the hospital before our turn comes, or we need to wait for many months until we get an appointment with the doctor. Doctors are very, very, very busy. And in many cases, this is because many of the visits to the hospitals are useless. You did not need really to busy that doctor. That doctor should have looked at someone else at that time, but there was no way for us to know that you did not need that visit early on. So these are more operational or logistical. This is just more of a fun one. I'm not sure if it has ever happened, but usually people talk about that as one of the surgery mistakes, like the doctor forgot a scissor or, I don't know, some screwdriver inside me during the surgery and closed my body with that tool inside me. I'm not sure if we are going to solve that today, but just one to mention. So the question is, can AI, data, science, or other technologies help, please? How can tech help in that? So for AI and data science to help, we need data, because AI and data science sit on the shoulders of big data. Without data, then you cannot do any data science, you cannot do any AI. And when it comes to biology, we have a lot of big data around to look at. So let's just have a quick glance on what types of big data sets we have in healthcare and in biology. One big item is electronic healthcare record data. In Jordan, most hospitals, I've heard them talking about electronic medical record data, EMR, it's the same thing, which are these tables in the database of the hospital, like that patient came to the hospital on that day, they took that medication, they were diagnosed with that, what operations the patient took at the hospital, etc., their vital signs, their blood tests, their urine tests, all of those are stored in the databases of the hospitals. That's one source of data. Another source of data is medical images. And you get a lot of AI and machine learning that is specialized in vision, in computer vision stuff, working on these medical images, X-rays, CT scans, etc., of the other medical images. Another source of big data in healthcare are medical reports, and these tend to be in free text. We attended the first session today about text. But usually these are handwritten with doctor's handwriting. And I assume everyone knows that doctor's handwriting are exactly as neat and clean as typing, right? It's like getting something printed on a computer. It's the same thing. I don't know actually, do pharmacists take a course in their degree about doctor handwriting reading? Is that part of their course? Because I feel that pharmacists usually, they can read the prescription very easily, weirdly. Anyway, so these reports, it's not only taking them from handwriting into computer text, but also what do they mean? What are the keywords in those? Because these are not as structured as the healthcare records that are in a database. Also, we have a lot of operational financial data in the hospitals. How long does the patient on average need to wait in the hospital until their turn comes, etc. The financial data of the hospital. So these are more or less logistics. I've worked on almost all applications of data science in healthcare except for this one. So I'm listing it here, but I don't know much more. I cannot answer many questions on that specific item. And the big one is genomics. And the word genomics here refers to a big group of things, including genomics. There are other words, I'll just throw them on the audience. Transcriptomics, phosphoproteomics, proteomics, epigenomics, etc. You don't need to know what these mean, but these are different types of data sets that mean different biological things that are treated differently, analyzed differently to answer different questions in biology and medicine. So this is a big bag of different types of data sets, but this is huge. And just to get a bit of the kind of a sense of the scale of things that we work on when it comes to data in healthcare. So the human body has 200 to 400 different types of cells. The actual number of individual cells, they have a range, but they tend to be just more than 30 trillion individual cells in any single body. That's just in one human. There are more than 100,000 types of proteins in the body, and if you look at the number of individual protein molecules in just a single cell of the 30 plus trillion cells, they tend to be around 42 million individual molecules of protein per cell, and you have 30 plus trillion cells per individual. This is a lot of complexity, and we don't understand how it works. Now, if we focus on one of the cells, and again, this is a bit educational, maybe I'm just giving you kind of a crash course in genetics or in biology, cellular biology. If you focus on one cell and you look at the core of that cell, the nucleus, it has the genetic material. The genetic material is the code that has all of the instructions to do with how the cell behaves. It controls the behavior of the cell in interaction with environmental factors, etc. That genetic material has about 3.2 billion bases. It's a huge book from four letters. It's a 4 alphabet letters. I think I'm covering part of the presentation, so maybe I should just move a bit here. Someone should have pointed at me. So we have 4 letters, A, C, T, G, and it's a huge book that's stored inside the nucleus of your cell that goes like A, C, T, T, G, C, T, G. So you don't have the complexities of the ASCII table. Here's just 4 letters. But what does that book that has 3.2 billion letters mean? Especially that's 1/10 of the English Wikipedia. So if someone tells you, go read the entire English Wikipedia, and tell me what you learn from it, and it's in a language that you don't understand. So 10 human genomes equal 1 English Wikipedia as it stands now. One extra fact is 100% of that DNA of that book is identical in all of your 30+ trillion cells in your body. My DNA is different from yours, but your DNA in all of your body is identical, with the exception of cancer cells. That's an entire field to look at. A quiz, and I would like for people to participate by raising hands, as I mentioned the different options. So if I take myself and any random human being on Earth, so someone in this room or someone who's very different ancestrally speaking, someone from East Asia or from Africa or from Europe, how much is my DNA identical to any other random human being? How much is identical between me and any other human being? So if you think that it's A, between 50 and 70%, raise your hand. So we have some hands, okay? If you think it's B, it's 70 to 90% identical DNA between me and any other human being. Raise your hand. It's more or less this. I think people don't think that the second option is the option, I think. Who thinks that it's C, 90 to 95%? Okay. D, 95 to 99.5% identical DNA. I see more hands now. Okay. Who thinks that it's 99.5 to 99.9% identical? Okay, this has many more hands. Who thinks that it's 100% identical DNA across different humans? I see one hand. Okay, so you guys got it right. So if you were in the millionaire program and the candidates asked the audience to help, they would have answered the correct answer. So the correct answer is it's 99.5 to 99.9% identical DNA. That's just 0.5% to 0.1% different DNA. But out of 3.2 billion bases, even that small difference between humans, those are about 3 to 15 million bases, 3 to 15 million letters in that book of instructions that are different. And the question that begs itself is, which combinations of these DNA variations are causative of our apparent differences, which we call in the business traits? So which of these millions of differences in the DNA cause the differences in our skin color, eye color, hair color, voice, height, weight, susceptibility to disease, and that's the more important one. Why do some people have some diseases while others do not have those same diseases? And which environmental factors interact with these variants to cause these diseases? So this is a combinatorial problem. Anyone who understands kind of math and combinatorial work then understands that this is a huge, just the less than 1% of the human genome to be different, that's still very big for you to look at all of the combinations, especially that biology is a mess. So anyone who works in physics follows the rules a lot more than biology. To give you a bit of a flavor of the size of the data, so this is just one public database where people dump the what we call genomic sequence data, and by 2024, we estimate that we have 91 petabases. So that's 91,000 trillion bases in that database. Amongst them are about 53 petabases that are open access. So you can just sit at home and access these. One of the big questions, which part of that should I access to answer which biological question, which is kind of a bigger problem than just going and downloading that data, if you have enough disks. To have disks to store that data is easy. To be able to analyze that data is hard. Another fun fact, just a spoiler, to analyze part of that data, to have a publication published in an academic sense, to have I've invented this algorithm or whatever, is much easier than getting an answer out of that that is translational. So to make something different for the patient, for the health of humans, using that data is a lot more complex and requires a lot of skills beyond just, I've downloaded that data, I've ran that machine learning exercise on it, I've done clustering, and I have these clusters very nicely colored on a plot, written a paper and published in some journal, high or low impact factor. So there's a lot of complexity in that. And I've just compared these with the English Wikipedia. So when we talk about 91 petabases, we talk about more than 2.7 million times the English Wikipedia. That's huge data. That's why, for example, this in 2015, and actually I will flip back just to look at 2015. If you can see, 2015 is just the start of that. It's just accumulating the first few petabases at 2015. Yet, in 2015, you got this paper that compared a number of big data sources, including astronomical, genomical, and some other types of data, and they asked this question, astronomical or genomical, and their conclusion, you can go and read the paper, they say that genomic data is likely to be as complex or more than astronomical data. So it ranks at the top of in terms of complexity. Just because you have many types of data, it needs a lot of domain knowledge, and forming the question correctly, using the correct methods to be able to get an answer that makes sense is not as easy. Okay, so what's the AI and tech promise? So we have big data, we have big problems, and it relates to human health, which is very important. By the way, just kind of a side note, everything that I talk about also applies to plant biology, animal biology, microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, so it's all the same molecular language. I worked as a bioinformatician for part of my time at the Plant Sciences Department, Oxford University, and now I work in drug discovery in a biotech in Oxford as well. Before that, I worked on some yeast genetics and some bacterial genetics, so that a lot of the skills are transferable across these fields, and a lot of the domain knowledge actually is transferable as well across these. So, but I'm just focusing on a subset of the field, realizing that actually most of the audience probably are coming more from the tech side rather than from the biological side. So, what does AI try to do? So, one very common thing, when you say AI in healthcare, you can imagine a robot doing a surgery. That's one of the fields. And it is one of the fields that actually it delivered on. And you get a lot of mechatronical engineering as well mixed with AI and that. So it's a very fun field. I've never worked in it personally, but it's a place where AI delivers. Another area is radiology and diagnoses in general using imaging data. A lot of computer vision algorithms come into that game to try to, for example, to take an image, a scan of a part of the body, and then to try to automatically, kind of AI finds the tumors inside that and classifies them. Are these malignant tumors? Is that cancer or is that not cancer, for example, etc. in diagnoses. Also in healthcare operations, streamlining operations and logistics at hospitals. A lot of the data can be used and are being used for that. There's also the telemedicine area. Telemedicine is when you have an application, for example, on your phone, or if you can make a phone call to the hospital and try to collect things passively. For example, self-reported things that you can do at home, and then that application reports back your readings to the hospital and notifies you and the hospital if you need to go to the hospital for a visit. So it saves you going to the hospital and saves the doctor to spend time with you if there's no need. In my previous company, Sensign Health, now they rebranded at Oxford, I was not part of that team, but they developed an application with an AI layer with it for gestational diabetic women to monitor them at home, and only it only notifies them to go to the hospital or to the doctor when needed, because most of their visits to the hospital are useless. They're just maintaining themselves at home. So that's the telemedicine area. And then the very big area that I will talk about a bit in more detail is related to drug development. So developing new drugs, new medicines. And I will show you some numbers just to get an idea of the size of that domain, of that problem. Finally, research tools. So all of these people are scientists, are researchers. The dominant number of people that work in all of these are researchers. And they need a lot of tools to help them in general research, whether they are at the university or in companies. They need faster tools, more efficient tools, and AI can come to help them in that. And Biol.ai that I'm representing is helping mainly in research tools that help researchers across the board of the pipeline or the field of research in healthcare. Okay, so let's focus on one problem, which is drug discovery. And let's look at what it takes to take one single drug into the market. So to discover, to develop one single drug, one new medicine. This is the drug development pipeline, canonical. So if you search online, you will find different versions of that. I designed that using the great Microsoft PowerPoint tool, but you'll find many different things. So I did not nick it from the internet, but it's the same thing. I'm not going to go through the steps, but they go from basic research all the way to approval, and then the medicine goes to the market. After the medicine goes to the market, there's still more research to make sure that the medicine is still safe, is still efficacious, it still works. Do we need to take it out of the market, etc. Like you saw, the COVID vaccines, for example, went across these. Vaccines are a bit easier in one way, but COVID vaccines had their own story. I can talk about them offline, why they went very quickly, but then they kept doing research even after approval, so it does not end at approval. And at all of these steps, researchers focus on safety and efficacy. Safety means that, is this safe? Does it have a very bad side effect, for example, that is unbearable? For example, if you are treating cancer and the side effect is a bit of headache, that's fine. But if you are treating headache and the drug causes you, I don't know, kidney failure, then probably it's not the best drug. So even safety is relative. And efficacy means, is the drug actually useful? Is it helping in the case? So is it treating the problem? That's efficacy. And does it have bad side effects? That's safety. That's the cost that takes one drug to the market. It's $2.6 billion. I remember one guy told me, universities in Jordan, they have a lot of research budget. I think he thought of kind of thousands of dollars per year or something like that. Why don't they develop better drugs than, I don't know, the West, something like that? It takes $2.6 billion to develop a single drug and take it all the way to the market. That's very expensive. And in terms of time, it takes 12 to 15 years to do that. So imagine anyone who works in business here, any VCs around, I don't know if you have ever worked in a business where you put your money today and it will cost eventually $2.6 billion, and who knows if it will work or not, and you will only get the first return on investment in 12 to 15 years. It's a very different model. People who invest money in that, they have different way of thinking. And you can get the money back in different ways. Anyway, it's a different business model. But that's a big problem. And most of people who work across that are highly paid. The company where I work in Oxford currently, we raised a Series A fundraising 2 years ago of $45 million approximately. The company had 20 people. Now we are at 40 people, and we are just squeezing the budget. And 40 people, I counted today, we have 28 of 40 have PhD degrees, and many of the rest of the 12 have master degrees. So it's a very expensive industry. To keep paying people, just to pay people salaries over 12 to 15 years is very expensive, let alone all of the materials and the other costs. So it's very bad as it looks, and it's going worse. Also, there is a very high failure rate. So a lot of that money is because you need to try many things for you to be successful in one thing. So for example, the ones that reach phase 1, I think this is a pointer, I'm not sure if you can see it, forget about that. So from clinical trial phase 1, the ones who reach that stage up to approval, only 1 in 8 go through that. Many others, they spend all of the years before and the money, and then they just fail. So what can we do to help there? The solution, basically, we need to tackle these things. Can we develop faster? So what tools can we do to make us develop faster, just get things quicker? And that helps us to fail faster. If something is going to fail, if we want to try 100 things for one to eventually get us revenue, can we tell that each one of the 99 ones that will fail eventually, that they will fail, but earlier, rather than waiting for 5 years until them to fail? If we can fail them in 3 years, that's saving 2 years of money and time. So it's huge if we can fail things faster. Also, can we fail less? Can we, the initial filter that gives us the first candidates that we start from, can we have a better success rates? Can we do things cheaper? Can we hit the same KPIs with cheaper ways? What makes that doable is to fail faster, to fail less, etc. That makes things cheaper as a byproduct. Also, can we make them more precise? I have slides on precision medicine that I'm not going to present. I've just kept them kind of in an appendix. But precision medicine, you can go and read about it. It's a whole field now. It's the buzzword. It's the AI kind of word that is going through the medical field and the drug development. Like, are you working within precision medicine? Which means, can you define the correct medicine for the correct person early on, which is the problem that I introduced at the beginning. So all of these things AI contributes to. And the question, has AI or have AI and other technologies delivered on that mission? So since 2012, hundreds of companies started. Some companies, for example, focused on 1 or 2 of these steps. It's like, I'm going to specialize in an AI thing that will solve the target ID problem or the drug design problem, or I'm going to work on clinical trials as my problem, and to design AI tools that just tackle that single problem. Some other companies work across the board. They try to build AI tools that work across all of these stages, like Benevolent.ai and in Silicon Medicine, for example. Biol.ai, maybe people cannot see it because of this is hiding it, but it's at the bottom. It's working on research tools. So it's applicable to all stages, but we at Biol.ai, we're not building specific tools for these stages. We are just making better research tools. So a researcher in general will be faster in addressing their problems. For example, by enabling a scientist who does not know how to write code to do basic analysis and even advanced analysis of data without the need to write code. So they can play with their data and get insights from their data faster than sending the data to their colleague bioinformatician who needs to go for some time and analyze the data and come back, etc. So trying to shorten that thing. I think that's the cover of the battery, which fell. Anyway, we're good. Cool. So looking at the timeline since 2012, so AI for drug development wave started, and what enabled that start is 2012 tends to be seen as the year where deep learning started effectively. So that's when, it's like nowadays, 2024, 2023, 2024, how many companies have started on the shoulders of ChatGPT and large language models in general, because that's the wave. Now suddenly, loads of startups start, because this is the year when this started. 2012, effectively deep learning started, so hundreds of companies started from 2012 onwards. In 2019 and 2020, the first candidates that were AI designed started to emerge by, for example, companies like InSilico, Deep Genomics, and Xpand. They got us the first candidates. For example, the Xpandia's first AI-designed drug in human trials took them 12 months to design. And that reached the clinic. That means that it reached clinical trial phase 1. Spoiler, that eventually failed phase 3. So now this is out of the market. So later on it failed. But that 12-month period, they did something that usually takes 4.5 years to do. So even if it eventually failed, we were able to deliver faster. And many other candidates, AI-inspired candidates, started to emerge from then onwards. And in 2023, the first list of setbacks, of failures, started to appear, because you need some time for things to start failing. However, that's not the end of the world, because some others are still in the pipeline. And by the way, many AI companies, hundreds of AI companies, have not yet delivered anything so far since they started. So a lot of, we talk about one company can be tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in investment have taken so far, and years of development, but still no outcome. Maybe next year we will see their big outcome, and maybe they will never deliver. So we saw big successes, but I think what the single take-home message, in addition to anyone who was interested in the domain content that we talked about, I don't know if that found healthcare fancy. I find it, that's why I'm in the field. But I think what makes AI and in general data science fail, and this applies to other fields. So this applies to people that work in AI outside of healthcare. Let's talk about the things. So the first thing, who is driving and what is driving? And actually, I wanted to put what is driving, but then I thought, no, who is driving is also important, although one can wear different hats. But you have to wear the hat of the stakeholder, of the domain expert. I've seen many AI projects failing in healthcare because they were led by people who were AI-oriented. They were solving the give me a model that has a higher accuracy problem. They were not solving the biological problem. They were not solving the healthcare problem. And they keep focusing on that niche, and they forget about the actual objective because they do not appreciate it. For them, the biological question came on day one from their colleague who works with them, I don't know, once a month or something like that. And then they took the biological question or the healthcare question. Yes, I can do that using some unsupervised learning clustering method. Excellent. They forget about the domain and they start just focusing on clustering, forgetting about that. So what is driving the work and the prioritization of the work and who's driving that? That's one of the major reasons for which many projects fail. I've seen businessmen running biotechs failing. I've seen scientists running business in biotech succeeding just because the one who's driving is thinking of the actual objective. Also, the problem definition. So this overlaps with the previous one. So you need to define the problem that matters. Is your problem to go from 80 to 82% in accuracy, or from 99.9 to 99.99 accuracy? Or is the problem to have a go, no-go decision on that drug? Do I push it to the preclinical stage or not? Because the preclinical stage is going to cost us millions. Do I have enough evidence on that to push it next? And that brings me, the problem definition and who's driving, brings us to the third thing, which is technology abuse, which is, do you have a problem that you're finding a solution for, or you have a solution that you are trying to find a problem for? Did you do a PhD in developing that deep learning model and you're trying to find a biological problem for it? And then you need just to fit that deep learning model there? Or is your problem solvable by simple statistics from 1930s? And that actually will be much cheaper and much faster, and in some cases more reliable, and in most cases more explainable, because we understand how we got the results, rather than a big black box. I've lived through problems that require the state-of-the-art deep learning, and that is the right tool for it. So I'm not saying AI is not the right tool all the times, but you need to think, is it the right tool, or am I just using AI to please the investors and the board and to put something fancy on my website? Is it the right tool? That's a very important thing that you need to think of. And failure to kill, obviously killing projects here we're talking, so that, and if everyone is okay with that. I've written it there, so that it's written. So no, I cannot be taken for that. So failure to kill projects, when you know internally that actually data is telling me it's not working, and you are torturing the data until the data confesses that I think you can see a signal, but you cannot fool yourself. And usually the domain expert who is driving sometimes is in a better position to believe or not to believe the results. Rather than you saying, no, it's statistically significant. The p-value is there, 0.043, and that's by statistics correct. But you do not believe that it's correct, and then you spend the next 4 years on it, and you spend the next tens of millions or hundreds of millions on it. until it actually fails, because it will fail. If you put that drug in a human's body, it will fail. And you get the wrong team composition. The wrong team composition starts from who's driving, all the way to all of the members of the team. For example, data engineering currently is emerging as a very important discipline. Data engineering, I'm not saying software engineering, I'm not saying machine learning engineering, I'm saying data engineering. And data engineering is very important to scale up companies as they go from going back to some of the talks, trying to remember which talk now, that's embarrassing, that when you go from the 1 to 100 stage, you tend to need a lot of data engineering to enable your scale up. And many investors in biotech, for example, and in pharmaceutical companies, they don't understand data engineers because the data engineer is doing a job to help the rest of the engineers do their work. So then how do you convince the investor that actually we need that? But actually, if you don't have that in the team, you end up wasting most of other people's time in data engineering, that there is someone else whose bread and butter is to do it. And that's why wrong team composition tends sometimes, in many cases, to lead to failure. Okay, so I'm going to skip over the precision medicine. I'm going to go over the slides with, actually, we can do 5 seconds each slide just to go over them, and that's the last second, then we can conclude. So precision medicine, if we have some genetic cause in the liver causing some symptoms, people usually try to diagnose diseases based on the symptoms. Your liver looks wrong, so you have a liver disease. So we'll give you the liver drug. If you have another cause in the kidney, you see other symptoms, your kidney is wrong, so I'll give you the kidney drug. So you have the liver drug and the kidney drug. But what if the genetic cause, so the actual chemistry inside the cell that is causing the liver disease, causes a kidney disease in some people? So what's happening is that, I'll give you that example. So if someone's cheek, sorry, I should use the other cheek because there's a microphone there. So if someone's cheek is red, is that rosacea? Then you treat it in one way. It's the same symptom. Or is that a slap from someone's wife? The treatment is different, isn't it? So it's the same symptom, but it's a different cause. So a red cheek or a broken arm, if the cause is the same, then the solution is the same. We need basically to take you to some social services and talk to you guys. But if the cause is rosacea, then you take something else. So you can have the same cause causing two different things. And currently, most of medicine is based on the symptoms, the apparent symptoms. They don't understand what's going underneath. A lot of what we do using AI, data science, bioinformatics, computational biology, is to try to analyze the huge amounts of biological data to try to understand what's going on actually inside the cell, what's the root cause, and therefore to give you the correct treatment for that. So Biol.ai, I'm representing them today. I mentioned briefly what Biol.ai does. So I'm not going to go over that again, but please feel free to go to our website, talk to me outside this. We're looking for brilliant software engineers currently. We might look for other people like data scientists, etc. Later on, if you think that you can do good software engineering, you're a fast learner, please come to me, or better, to come to my colleagues. So Jabir is there, and Yahya, he has raised his hand, Jabir. So please, he's leading engineering at Biol. So please go to him, ask me or them any further questions about Biol, and I will finish it here. I think the summary is very clear. AI is brilliant, but you need to be careful how to treat it. And I don't know if we have time for questions. The timer there says 1 minute, 18 seconds. So if there are any quick questions, I'm happy to take them.
Are there any questions? Sorry. Yeah. Any questions? I think you can find Dr. Basel outside. He's going to stay here for the next few hours.